What's going on there, guys? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster here on this Wednesday, April 6th, 2022 date, about 7:04 p.m. California time, where the sun is just setting out here along the western coast range. The latest quake shows a 1.8 earthquake out there on the Earthquake 3D globe. Kind of odd because I have this set for pretty much 2.0 and above. So either way, a 1.8 showing up there in this area of the world. Let's go ahead and check out the latest data here from the USGS and models across the globe here. Looking at the last 24 hours of 2.5 and above. We'll go ahead and drop this down to all magnitudes for the states. Take a look at the general movement out here, where we're kind of seeing a major increase in pressure out here along the western part of the Pacific Ring of Fire and the western part of the Philippine Plate, up around the Java Trench as well. Seeing a pretty dynamic setup here of a lot of deep movement up here around the northern section. Actually, it's pretty shallow here. A lot of shallow activity here around the Andaman Sea, north of the Java Trench here. Java Trench normally sees a lot of deep movement here, but this area northward, seeing quite a few fours and some fives in the mix as well, at about 10 kilometers below the surface. Just a pretty good influx of earthquake activity throughout the day here, right around the Philippines area as well. Looking at the depth scale of these earthquakes, we're not seeing anything majorly deep. Most of it is a shallow earthquake movement throughout the north part here in the western part of this area. There's a couple deep earthquakes around the Indonesia area, about 227 kilometers here on the southern end of the Philippine Trench. But overall, a lot of shallow earthquake activity up here on this area. And we kind of look at trends and stuff like that, and there's really no specific trend to follow when it comes to daily earthquake activity. It comes and goes as it will. A lot of times the deeper movement here in the Fiji Islands area will contribute to movement up here in the northwestern part and the western part of the Pacific Ring of Fire and adjacent plates here to the west. That includes the Philippine Plate and the Java Trench area. But we haven't really seen too much in the way of deep movement here in the Fiji Islands area. Looking at the last 7 days of activity, shows a couple deep ones, and they've been fairly deep, about 500, some of them close to 600 kilometers deep here in the area over the last week. 4.6 at 571 kilometers deep. That's pretty deep out there. But yeah, I mean, these earthquakes really follow no specific trend of movement, and that's just kind of a typical day in earthquake activity out here, I would suppose, here along this area of the world. Let's go ahead and check out movement up here in the north part of the Pacific Plate and the American Plate here, North American Plate. Little line of activity across the Aleutian Trench, right? It's very typical of activity up in that region, also up in Alaska as well. Throughout the Canada region, nothing showing up here on the USGS map, but these guys, I don't know, they tend to just skip over Canada. We'll check out the Earthquakes Canada map here in just a little bit. Pacific Northwest, some movement up here northeast of Seattle, seeing a 2.9 near the Darrington, Washington area. Very shallow earthquake, very surface type of quake here at negative 0.1 kilometers. So very shallow quake there. Also, Mount St. Helens showing up here on the map once again. Couple small microquakes. I do want to check out the latest earthquake activity here into the region. This is the tremor map here tonight. 282 epicenters of tremor, mostly into the Vancouver Island ranges, southern end, just outside of Seattle, Washington to the northwest. And a little bit of movement here northwest of Medford into the valley area around Roseburg. Seeing some movement. Northern California in the clear tonight. But volcanic seismicity map here for Mount St. Helens. We'll go ahead and check that out because that's kind of a hot topic right now, right? Volcanoes, no doubt. We'll check out this 3-component broadband here. September Lobe. Wake me up when September ends, no doubt. Mount St. Helens. Even looking at this map here over the past couple hours, I can see distinct localized earthquake activity here. See that red spike? Another blue spike, a couple red spikes, a blue spike there. Go ahead and check out the previous UTC day. And it doesn't really necessarily correspond with the our daily 24-hour period, right? So UTC time a little bit different. Yeah, right there as well. Another localized earthquake there at Mount St. Helens. A couple other ones. I'm guessing this one here is going to be the one that showed up on the map. Looking at the timestamp there, it's between 1920 and 2020 UTC time. So the 1.0, well, I don't know if that's going to show up. The 0.5 should, 1940 UTC time, right? 1940 UTC time. And 1940 is going to be, yeah, it's going to be pretty much right about there for the 1940 UTC time. So that's a 0.5 showing up here. So these other signatures on the graph here are much smaller, much smaller. But I'm glad it's kind of picking it up. So probably 0.1 or maybe even smaller. But some earthquake activity nonetheless showing up there at the Mount St. Helens area. Northern California movement up around the Lake Almanor area southward. Feather Falls region, seeing a couple small earthquakes around LaPorte. Nothing major going on at the moment. No volcanic seismicity at Mount Shasta or Mount Lassen. But that's going to change one day. It's going to change, no doubt, pretty soon. With all the subduction zone activity there with the tremor, I think we're going to see that kick up pretty soon. Watch. Mark my words. Long Valley supervolcano, some activity outside of the caldera with a 2.9 at 3.4 kilometers. Movement up and down the eastern part of Sierra Nevada. Somewhat typical. And something's crawling on my shoulder. Looks like it was a little bitty spider. It's getting to that time of year where things start cooking out here. We hit 89 degrees here in Northern California, so all the bugs are starting to come back out. And they just come out of nowhere. Got little bitty spiders crawling on me. Outside in the Indio area, I've seen a little bit of movement here in the microquake department. Looks like a 2.4, the largest in this cluster of 8 earthquakes, which sits just to the east of the San Andreas Fault Zone. So I know the San Andreas Fault has been under an enormous amount of stress over the past who knows what. Couple hundred years, right? The southern segment is prime for a big one. When it's going to happen, who knows? But little incidents like this on the eastern side of this plate boundary, which is pretty much the North American side of the plate boundary, right? Kind of tells us possibly of further stress getting to the breaking point with this inland movement that we're seeing here near Indio with this microquake activity. And it's pretty much around the bend of 5 kilometers or so. There's one at 0.6, but it's, you never know. I mean, we could see this activity here tonight, and we could have an 8-pointer on the San Andreas Fault Zone, and pretty much could have foretold that earthquake just due to this this seismograph or this seismic activity here on the eastern part of this plate boundary. But you never know. I mean, it's hard to tell how much stress. This thing is wound up like a spring, that's for sure. Desert Hot Springs to the south to the Salton Sea, that segment right there, very capable of producing a mega quake 8.1 on the San Andreas Fault Zone. Not San Andreas, San Andreas. I still get a little bit of comments about that because I know what I'm saying, and sometimes I just speak a little bit fast, and sometimes I can speak super fast. I can really speak super fast if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. I'm a pretty fast reader and proofreader and fast typer, so sometimes San Andreas just rolls off my tongue like that. All right, let's move on. But watch that area pretty closely there, because anything on the eastern side of the plate boundary is something to watch pretty closely, folks. No swarms down into the Salton Sea area of the Brawley seismic zone out here around the Milford and Beaver, Utah area. Some swarming kicking up here in the mountains. A couple small microquakes. 2.1 looks to be the largest in this sequence of little earthquakes out here. Negative depths and negative magnitudes kicking off there out there in the Utah region. Yellowstone National Park. Go ahead and check them out here real quick on the overview. And can I say that they've updated the maps yet? No, I can't, because they are still showing data from the 3rd. and that goes for the University of Utah as well. I kind of want to show you guys just to verify, right? I don't want to say that this website is showing old data, while the USGS and the University of Utah that monitors the earthquake activity showing new data. So let's go ahead and check them out here, right? Live seismographs here. Let's go ahead and zoom in to Yellowstone National Park up here. We'll pick out a different one here. We'll pick out this red triangle around the Little Thumb Creek. There we go, April 3rd. We're standing still in time, folks. I still don't know what's going on with these guys, but they're being pretty shady in reporting earthquake activity. So USGS, word out. You guys are getting paid by the people, getting paid to do the job that is expected of you, and you're not doing the job whatsoever. None. Yellowstone National Park remains quiet as far as terms of standstill data being recorded here from the 3rd, a few days ago now. But good thing we have the live seismograph on the earthquake channel to monitor the activity. So anyway, the USGS proudly showing some movement out here around the Lake Yellowstone area and a little swarm here around the Pitchstone Plateau. But man, it would be nice to look at that activity on a recorded map. So get with it. Some deeper movement there, 11, 12 kilometers into the region. That's actually pretty deep here for Yellowstone. And also some activity here around the Yellowstone Lake, 0.7 around that region there. Looks like about 7.1 kilometers. What do we got here throughout the rest of the country? A little bit of activity kicking up here in the Pecos, Texas area, right around Guadalupe Peak. And the region here just east of the Delaware Hills. A couple twos kicking up out there. New Madrid zone, this movement from this morning earlier, 1.8 and 2.0. Eastern part of the country looks pretty quiet. Out around the middle part of the Middle American Trench, some movement around Guatemala and San Salvador, and also just off the coast of Nicaragua, a 4.6 and a 4.5, respectively, into the Middle America Trench there at about 87 and 59 kilometers into that subduction zone. South America, what's going on this major area, right? Check out this major subduction zone area. Quiet. We don't like to see that. But then again, Cascadia is a major subduction zone area. Quiet as well. So we'll see what pops off here in the coming days. The Big Island, what's going on out here in the beautiful Pacific. Couple earthquakes here on the western side of the Big Island and southeast flank showing some typical movement with some 2s and 3s cracking down there around 35 kilometers or so. So yeah, once again, tremor activity into the Pacific Northwest, confined to the Vancouver Island ranges. Let's go ahead and check out the Earthquakes Canada map with the latest map here from the folks up there at Earthquakes Canada. And what do we got? Northern End, it looks like here. Today, this is today's activity. Go ahead and pop up here with the legend. Some movement into the Pacific side of the Juan de Fuca plate. Well, in this case, it'd be the Explorer plate because it kind of cuts off right about here, right? Definitely under some extreme stress. Seeing some movement here right across the Explorer plate here, the boundary between the Juan de Fuca and the Explorer plate. So that that area is definitely under the gun right now. But over here on the Pacific side, a 3.3 at 10 kilometers off the coast of Port Alice, BC. 218 kilometers southwest to be precise. And rest of Canada up here. A little bit of movement along the Pacific and North American plate. Alberta, BC area looks like some movement, aftershock activity up here in the north part. Otherwise, latest quake outside of Ottawa. It looks like a 1.8 showing up on the map. Solar weather activity, pretty, well, let's go ahead and check this out here. I think we're talking about a G1 storm. What's going on with the sun recently, right? It's popping off these CMEs and these massive filaments, and you see them all over the news, right? 300, I can't remember what they fear-mongered about. It's like 1,000-kilometer wide fire canyon on the sun spreads hot plasma towards the earth, you know, and it's like, come on, give me a break. We're not seeing any. Is this it right here? These guys aren't really fear-mongering it as much, but some other news agencies were. And I'm like, come on, click X ignore. But there was a little filament, okay? It was not Earth directed at all, because the forecast here called for a G1 storm last night. Tonight, still forecasting a G1 storm. But look at this, folks. We only see a little enhancement of KP index of 2. The charts here are not showing any significant major CME or plasma or any type of event from the sun. Densities all somewhat minor. Speed is very low. The temp's very low as well. It's all average. So the sun has been popping off a lot of events, but when it comes to the forecasting here of these humans, they are not getting it right in terms of well, they're forecasting kind of worse than the weather. I mean, I think I could predict the weather a little bit more than these guys are predicting the solar activity. But hey, it is what it is. I'm not in charge of it. I'm just here reporting. Flare activity, definitely pretty low. 55% chance of a C flare. I don't even think that's going to happen. Looking at the complexity of the sunspots here, this kind of rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Not a whole lot here to report in terms of sparking on the sun. So we'll keep an eye on it, though, no doubt. All right, folks, you have yourself a beautiful evening. 2.1 earthquake showing up on the earthquake 3D globe right now into the California region. Just kind of see how the night plays out, folks. Have a good evening. We'll chat you guys a little bit later. Peace out.